Hello, beautiful people. We are now moving into our next unit. So we are done with all things solving equations and we have moved into a unit called functions. Most of this is material that you have seen in middle school, but some of it is a little bit newer. So today we're going to start with some concepts that you've learned before, but we need to make sure that you're very comfortable with these before we can move on throughout this unit. So what we are going to start with today is called graphing on a coordinate plane. What we need to know about a coordinate plane is that there are 4 areas that we call quadrants. So each of these 4 spaces can have points in them and we call them quadrants. How it works is quadrant 1 is the top right quadrant. Quadrant 2 is next. Quadrant 3 and then quadrant 4. The way that I like to remember which quadrant is which is because the word coordinate plane starts with a C, and so I can make a C, and that's the order of my quadrants. So I started my C right here, that's quadrant 1. And I came over here, quadrant 2, over here, quadrant 3, and finally quadrant 4. Very easy way to remember which quadrant is which. So now with this, I also have axes. I'm going to erase this C so it can be out of my way. All right, so we have an axis that goes from left to right. That's called the x-axis. And we have an axis that goes up and down. That is called the y-axis. So how it works is anything on this side of the x-axis will be a positive number. Anything on the left side of the x-axis is a negative number. On my y-axis, any number above the middle is called a positive y number. And then every number below is a negative. Very easy. This spot right in the middle, that's called 0, 0. That spot is called the origin. We'll talk about that a lot throughout this unit. But the origin is the middle, that's 0, 0 on my coordinate plane. So now that we know the pieces of the coordinate plane, we are going to start graphing. Okay. So when we graph, we always move on the x-axis first. Then we move on the y-axis. So if we look at letter A, it says we need to graph 2, 4. 2 is a positive number. It's an x value. X comes first. So we're going to put an arrow saying we need to move to the right. 4 is also a positive number. So I'm going to go and put an arrow going up. So we have the ordered pair, 2, 4. We start at the middle. That's the origin. So we start right at the origin. We move to the right 2, and then we move up 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll put an ordered pair right at the corner of those boxes. I'm going to put an A there. So that is the ordered pair, 2, 4. Go ahead and try letter B. Okay, so in letter B, it says we have a negative 5 and a positive 6. The 5 is a negative x value, so my x will go to the left because it's negative. So we're going to draw a little arrow going to the left. My y value is a positive 6. Positive y values go up. So from the origin, we're going to count to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is where we're going to put the dot for B. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, one more. Letter C. So in letter C, my x value is negative. That means we're going to the left. So we put a left arrow. My y value is also negative. So that means we're going to go downward. Negative y's move down. So on my graph, I'm going to go left 3 from the origin. Start at the middle. Left 3, and then down 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And that's point C. Very easy. Okay, so go ahead and try the same for letter D. So in letter D, our x value is positive, our y value is negative. Positives mean we go to the right 5 units for my x value, and negative y means that we're going to drop down. So from the origin, we move to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then always put the letter for what coordinate that is. Very easy. So next we have letter E. In letter E, it's exactly the same. We just need to be very careful. So there's an 8 in the x spot. A positive x value goes to the right. So I'm going to put my right arrow with my 8. But if we look at our y is a 0. If that number is 0, it means we don't go up and we don't go down. So I'm not going to draw an arrow because a 0 means that we don't move on the y-axis at all. So all we're doing to graph E is going right 8 and then putting a dot there. So from the origin, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No y value. Y is 0, so we didn't move up or down. Okay, last but not least, letter F. So in letter F, very similar to letter E, we have a 0 for x. That means we don't go right and we don't go left. But we do have a number in the y. It's a positive 5. So that means that the second number is positive. We would go up. So I'm going to draw an up arrow on my 5. So what that means is that we don't move left or right because it says 0 for left or right number, but we do go up 5. So from the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is letter F. Very easy. So when you're drawing those arrows, the first number is always your x. It always is right or left. You start by going right or left. Your second letter is y. That's always up or down. When you draw those arrows, it makes it very easy to know exactly where you're going. So go ahead and flip this page over and let's take a look at the back. All right, so on the back, we have 6 different suspects, and we need to figure out the coordinate where each of them currently are. Then we need to answer the question. If the thief is in the 3rd quadrant with an x coordinate of -8, which suspect was the thief? So we'll get there in a minute. I need for you to figure out where my 6 suspects are before we can answer that question. So I'm going to help you find suspect A, and then you're going to try B through F on your own. So if we look at this picture, suspect A is hanging out right here. So we always start at the origin. We're going to move left or right, then we're going to move up or down. So to get to suspect A, we need to move to the left first. So he is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We had to go left 6. So I write that as -6. I'm going to rewrite it below since this is a very small space. So suspect A is at -6. Then from that left 6, we need to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up. Up is a positive, so it's -6, 8. You can write that in the ordered pair. Mine was just a little small, so I had to write it there. So when you're ready, go ahead and try letters B through F. Very easy. Once you've done B through F, go ahead and answer the question on the bottom of this page. Okay, once you've completed that, we have one last lesson for today, very easy, and then you are done with everything you need to know for today. So when you are ready and you've gotten all 6 suspects and you know which thief was the one in quadrant 3 with an x-coordinate of -8, go ahead and find this last paper that we are doing for today. Easy things, very, very easy. You have done this before. It is extremely important for Algebra 1. We need to make sure you really, really understand how to do this. So what the last piece of today is identifying if a relation is a function or not a function, okay? So what we're gonna write is that a function is a relationship So a function is a relationship between your x and your y values. So how this works is if the x's do not repeat, then it is a function. So when we're checking ordered pairs, just for the first one so we have a visual, the first number is always the x, the second is always the y. The first is the x, y, x, y, x, y. So what we need to check is if our x's repeat or do not repeat. So I circled all of my x values. So what you notice is that all of these x's are different. All of those numbers are different. So we're good. This is a function. Okay? So another way to think of this, to be a little silly, but to make it very easy to understand, is if you think of it as x being our girl, girls always come first, if x is our girls and y is our boys. What we're checking is to see if our girls are faithful or not faithful. So if we look at these girls, -2, -6, -10, and -3, no girl came back a second time. So we're good. This set of numbers is faithful. This is a function. All of them are different. We're good to go. But if we look at the second example, we're going to circle our x's. All we care about is the x. We don't care about the y value when checking for functions. So if we look at this, we've got this -8. She was dating a 6, and she comes back with a 3. That is not good. She is not faithful. This is not a function. If we have an x value that showed up again with a different y value, that means that this is not a function. So we try the same thing with number 3. We are checking our x's. Let's check those x's, see what we have here. So in this one, all of these girls, a 10, an 8, a 5, a -7, all of those girls are different, so we're good. This is a function. We didn't have a girl that came back a second time, so we're good. They're faithful. This is a function. So if we look at this last one, we have to be a little careful. So again, I start by circling my x's. Okay, so in this example, when I look at this, I'm like, we've got a -2. That girl, the x, -2, came back a second time. But if you look at what it was dating, -2 was hanging out with a -3. When she came back, she's still with that -3. So she is faithful because although she came back a second time, she's with the same old y value. So we are good. This is a function. If she came back with a different y value, that would not be good. She's not faithful. But in this one, she's with the same y value, so she is a function. So now how to check functions from a table. Same idea. I'm going to circle my x's. Here's the x values. If I look at these girls, we've got a -2, a -1, a 0, a 1, and a 2. All of those numbers are different. We don't have anything that's the same. So that is a function. Very easy. Definitely a function. But if we look at the second example, I've got this girl here. Her name is -1. She was dating this thing. And when she came back, now she's with a +1. That is not good. This is not a function because this one came back 2 times with a different y value. Not a function. In this one, let's check my x's. We're good. -2 is different from -1, different from a 1, a 2, a 0. We're good. All those girls are faithful. This is a function. So we check to see if any of our x values come back a second time. So now, last piece. Checking functions from a mapping diagram and from a graph. Very easy. Okay, so when we're checking mapping diagrams, x always comes first, y always comes second. X comes first, y comes second. X comes first, y comes second. So how it works is that the x values can only go to one y value. So we're only looking at our x's. So if we look at our x values, each x just has one line coming off of them, so we're good. This is faithful. These are a bunch of numbers that make a function. We're good. But if you look at the second example here, if we look at these x's, we have this x value. Her name was -1. She's going down this road, and then she's going down this road. That's not good. She's seeing 2 different people, one there and one there, so she is not a function. Lastly, we have this set of numbers in a mapping diagram here. We are only looking at our x's. We don't care about our y's. We are only looking at our x's. So when we look at these x values, this one has one line coming off, one line, one line, one line, and one line. So we're good. Those x values are a function. Each x value only had one line coming off of it, so we're good. It's a function. So now when we're looking at a graph, we have something that's called the vertical line test. What the vertical line test is that we're still checking our x's to see if there's ever more than one thing on it. So if we look at this example, I'm going to drop a vertical line. That's my girl. She only has one place where it touched the black graph, so this is a function. This one works. But if we check this one, that vertical line touches here and it touches here. So this girl's not being faithful. She's got a boyfriend here and one here, and nope, not a function. Doesn't work. If we look at this one, no matter where you dropped a line, the straight vertical line, it would only touch the graph one time. So if it only touches once, it means it is a function. But if you look at this one, if you drop the line right here, that's not good. There is a dot here and there is an ordered pair here. That means that this vertical line has 2 places on it. That means that it is not faithful, so it is not a function. Last but not least, no matter where you dropped a vertical line, it's not a very good one, no matter where you dropped this vertical line, there is only one ordered pair that sits on it. You can move that line right here, it would only touch one time. You can move it right here, it would only touch one time. So this one here is, in fact, a function. So today you know how to graph coordinates on a coordinate plane. and you know how to identify if it is a function or if it is not a function. So go ahead and flip to the back of this paper and try, see if you can identify functions versus not functions. You're checking to see if the x's repeat. If the x comes back again, it is not a function.